Star Wars Home Edition revealed. Jurassic Park also revealed. Dutch Pinball reached settlement with ARA.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Houston and welcome to the Pinball Magazine and Pinball News free monthly audio podcast with a sort of flashback, summary, recap, whatever you want to call it, of the past month of pinball industry news. And with me is...
I'm Martin Eyre from Pinball News, the editor, and I have to say, Jonathan, this is, last month we said things were a bit quiet, but we still managed to fill out quite a lengthy podcast. But this month, I think it's been really, really busy, isn't it?
It's been a very exciting month for pinball, I would say, yes.
Yeah, so we've... let's dive straight into it, I suppose, really. We don't want to waste any more time.
Right.
So we've had 2 new pinballs revealed this month.
Right.
The first of those was shown at Comic-Con in San Diego. Comic-Con, a huge, great comic and fan-based show.
Cosplay and all that kind of stuff going on. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Stern had a big presence there. I think their biggest presence ever.
Yeah.
And they were showing their newest game on the Star Wars stand, which was appropriate as it was actually a Star Wars game, their home edition, which they call the Pin.
Right.
So this was a Star Wars Pin game. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it, Jonathan, before we get too much into the detail?
Right. Well, the game itself is a completely different model than the Steve Ritchie recent Star Wars game that we saw in 3 versions, the usual Pro, Premium, and Limited Edition. This game is actually a George Gomez design, and I would say it's a further iteration of the Spider-Man home game that we saw, I think, 2 years ago, which was then also used for the Supreme Pinball machine, which was a private label game, of which only like 100 were made, and these are selling for like $25,000 or something like that.
That's not ridiculous, yeah.
Yes. And interestingly, not sure whether it was George Gomez who made the current changes to the game, but the layout is mostly the same, but the entrance to the ramps has been changed, and also the function of the drop target area on the left of the playfield in front of the left ramp has changed. In fact, on the Spider-Man Home Edition game, there was a construction where you had the 3 drop targets where you could actually lock a ball behind the drop targets, which we'd later seen in Guardians of the Galaxy. And that section has changed, where the 3 drop targets are still in the same place, but they are now guarding the entrance of the left ramp, and I think they're representing TIE fighters.
Yes, that's right.
So you have to shoot the TIE fighters first before you can actually exit that ramp and shoot the Death Star.
Yes, Death Star being at the top of the left ramp there.
Right.
It does have the same lock mechanism as Spider-Man Home Edition,
right,
which is basically a couple of posts with a switch behind them, and the ball can kind of settle between the 2 posts on the switch, and then you can knock that ball out to start a multi-ball mode.
Right, and that's the R2D2 multi-ball mode, which I think it's a very clever way of locking a ball. It's also a sort of carry-over multi-ball, because if you don't release the ball yourself, someone else can release it. It's an easy-to-get-to multi-ball. The funny thing is, there was a lot of criticism online about this game, but on the other hand, there were also people saying that they have the impression that it's actually more fun than the Pro Premium and Limited Edition Star Wars that Stern put out, like, what is it, 2 years ago, 1 year ago? And I have to say, although I haven't played the Star Wars game yet, when I played the Spider-Man Home Edition, I thought that was quite a fun playfield to shoot with some very clever rules. From what I've seen on the stream of the current Star Wars pin, if we are going to call it that, I'd say there's a little bit of overkill in the number of multi-balls. You're really going from one multi-ball to another, which I guess is sort of a pity in the sense that way achieving multi-ball is nothing special anymore.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying there. It would normally be something which you'd have to strive for. Well, Stern always used to give away one multi-ball fairly easily, didn't they?
Right, but that should be the 2-ball multi-ball with the easy to lock ball. But no, obviously Jack Danger streamed it from Comic-Con on the first day. So there was like 9 hours of Star Wars footage. I'd still say it's a fun game to flip. Obviously, this game is intended for the consumer market, if you wish. The cabinet is, although it uses the artwork of the already approved artwork, I would say, of the Pro, Premium, and Limited Edition, but then in a different configuration. The cabinet itself is something that I think people can even screw that together as a sort of IKEA furniture type of cabinet. But if that's what it takes for Stern to reduce the price of such a game, then sure, why not?
Well, there is a little bit of confusion exactly how that game's going to be marketed. The earlier versions, which they brought out, they brought out a what did we have? Well, not the Spider-Man edition so much, but when we had Transformers, and I think we had a Batman as well before as pin games, they were certainly targeted at more sort of retail market, shall we say, selling it through Costco, Walmart, Target, that kind of outlet. This time, there's no indication that that's how the Star Wars pin is going to be sold. It was shown in a presentation to regular Stern distributors,
right?
Which implies that that they're the ones who are going to be selling it and the ones who are going to be providing any service requirements for the game,
right?
Because that's always the big problem with any home game. If it goes wrong, who's going to service it?
Yeah, actually, it might be a smart move because let's say someone, a consumer person, let's call it that or whatever, is interested in such a game. If he's already walking into a Stern distributorship, goes home with a Star Wars pin. If he ends up liking it, he knows exactly where to get a professional model if he would be up for that. And we all know how it goes with pins. Once you got one is not enough.
That's true. And obviously the distributors are in a better position to provide the after-sale service than any sort of these big box shifter companies,
right?
Who don't even know what a pinball is, and it's just a commodity to them that they sell. And if it goes wrong, it gets taken back and sent back to the distributor or to the manufacturer to deal with, which is not something that Stern want to have to address.
Right. And I think the smart thing here is on Stern's end, I think what they experienced or might have experienced with these previous distributors like Amazon or whatever, obviously you have the risk of someone ordering a game, he sets it up at his home, plays it for 2 weeks, and he's like, I don't like it anymore. And if it's within a certain date of delivery, he might still send it back. And then what are you going to do with the game?
Yeah, true. We just order it for a party. Have people play it.
Right.
And then, as you say, send it back. But this game is slightly different from other games. It's a home game. It doesn't have a coin door. Well, it has a coin door, but it doesn't have any coin slots on it. And it also has a smaller LCD display than a regular Stern game has.
Right. Actually,
it is an LCD, whereas the Spider-Man Home Edition was LED, but color LED.
Which makes me think most LED screens easily adjust to. technically, if you're a handy guy, you can replace the speaker panel and the speakers, put in a bigger display, and you will. If you might just get a bigger image on the display, whatever you choose to put up there as a display. So.
Yeah, I would guess it's probably just an HDMI connection into that, and using the same spike system that they use elsewhere.
Right.
So yeah, it could drive any size display in theory.
Right. So that could be interesting. Actually, I was wondering if it's it's actually quite an interesting and fun layout to play. I'm actually wondering whether there's any pinball enthusiasts who are like, you know what, I got a spare cabinet here from whatever old game. I'm just going to put this Star Wars pin playfield in there and get a bigger display and sort of like build their own custom cabinet for it, and basically have a more arcade type of game with a bigger display.
Of course, the thing we haven't mentioned so far, which is the proverbial elephant in the room, is the price of this pin game.
Right, which is
$4,499, which is basically three-quarters of the price of a Pro model of Stern's latest machines, like.
Right. So obviously, this is the manufacturer suggested retail price, which in the end always turns out to be less than advertised.
True, but it's being sold through the same channels as all the other games, which are probably going to be discounted by the same amount. So it's probably going to end up as being 75% the cost of a Pro game.
Right.
So given what's missing out of it, is it realistic? I mean, when I've been thinking about sort of pricing points that Stern need to hit in order to sell to the home market, it's below 3,000.
Yeah, but
here they are at 4.5, and it's getting so close to being just a Pro machine in terms of price and in terms of the outlets and the channels that they're selling it through. It's not striking me as being something which is going to have any impact at all. I could be wrong. It could be a big success for them, as it turns out. But
I was having a similar discussion with our good friend Gary Flower. Last month.
Oh, he might call in. We can carry that on.
Yeah, and Gary basically was like, he made a very good point. If you're going to spend $4,500 on a toy, then you might as well buy the real deal for 5.5 or 6.
Yeah, absolutely. You're 75% of the way there already with this price.
Right, and so I can see the concern whether there is a market for this or whether this is overpriced. I guess the only thing I can say is time will tell. The only thing, plus, if we look at earlier home edition games, I think pricing has always been an issue. Even with the Spider-Man Home game, that turned out to be, I think they made 125 or so of those, and we never know what happened to them.
No. Well, that's always the issue, you see. They always have a certain, they're always overpriced, to be honest, for what they are. And they don't have that separation between being a home game and being an operator game in terms of price. They do in terms of features, but it's just hasn't got the differentiation that you need in order to make it a clear choice. If I've got $5,500 or $6,000, I'm going to buy an arcade version. If I've only got $3,000, I'm going to buy a home version. And that's without even considering, the resale value at the end of it. If you do want to move it on, who's going to want to buy your home model when they can pick up a second-hand Pro, premium?
And speaking of second-hand, I think second-hand Star Wars games are more or less in the same ballpark in terms of price as a new Star Wars pin.
Yeah, true. But if you're selling to the home market, then you're selling to people who don't know how to fix a game and don't want to know how to fix a game, so they want something which is new and works.
Right, yeah, that's true. So, oh well. I just hope for Stern this will work out, and I guess since the Spider-Man home game design was later on used for their private label Supreme game, I'm pretty sure Supreme paid very good money to Stern, so that you can't call that design a flop, in the sense that it earned its money, or it made enough money for Stern, I'd say. And who knows what may happen with this design? I mean, take off the Death Star and the few other elements that represent Star Wars, give it a different artwork on the playfield, and who knows what else you might use it for. So
yeah, I mean, true. It doesn't excite me in the way that I was hoping it would, and I know a lot of other people were expecting something a bit more from this announcement than actually turned out to be the case.
The thing is, Stern sent out a press release prior to Comic-Con saying that they were going to reveal a new game. Obviously, within the pinball community, that raises expectations, and then they come out with this home game or home edition, which is sort of like not what pinball enthusiasts were expecting. But then again, they made that up a week later, revealing a new Cornerstone game.
They did, and that Star Wars pin edition was not aimed at the regular pinball buyers. It was aimed at trying to bring in a new group of buyers, people who wouldn't have considered it in the past. But right. You do lead on nicely to the second game announcement this month.
If one last thing about the Star Wars pin, if you were going to announce a Star Wars pin for the home user market or the consumer market, San Diego Comic-Con is the best place to do it. So in that sense, it's a very strategic move from Stern. I have to applaud them for that. So.
Especially if you can piggyback on the Star Wars hype from that and show your game on the Star Wars stand, which is exactly what they did.
Right. So, and I think leading on to the next subject, I think it was either George Gomez or someone else who already let people know on Facebook in some comment that a new Cornerstone game was right around the corner, and that took, in fact, less than a week after Comic-Con that Jurassic Park was announced.
Yes, I think it did. I think it was George who did say, if you weren't enthused by our Star Wars announcement, don't worry, we've got another game coming out to be announced very, very shortly. And Jurassic Park. Although I have to say the announcement or the reveal of that game was not quite as smooth as maybe was intended. They did do a distributor presentation, as is the way Stern seems to do things now. They do a video conference type presentation.
A
distributors.
It's called a webinar, and it's not even for all distributors. I believe it's for selected distributors only. This was, I think, Tuesday a week ago, and instantly images leaked, screenshots from that presentation that was held by Gary Stern leaked. So it was no longer a surprise that it would be Jurassic Park, although the images were rather low res, so there was a lot of speculation going on what was actually happening on the playfield, or what was there, what could it do, what would the ball be doing, and all that sort of stuff. And then it took 3 more days before Stern actually revealed the official announcement and close-up photos of the game.
Yeah, I'm sure they weren't happy about the leak earlier on, and in fact, when I don't know whether you call it an official announcement. I certainly didn't get
neither did I.
Usual press announcement, which we normally get, which is along with a bunch of people, which we got for Star Wars, which gives the sort of the press announcement, the details of the game, the pricing, and the usual Gary Stern quote about it, along with a lot of information about how Stern Pinball is a global lifestyle brand.
Don't get me started on that.
Yes, that does wind up a lot of people, I know, and all the wonderful games they made in the past. But we didn't get that, and the pictures that did come out seemed to be fairly sort of randomly scattered around across the internet. Some outlets had some pictures, other people had other pictures, and
I think the most reliable source was Stern's Facebook, where like over 40 photos were published, as well as what usually would be a press release. But
although interestingly, I noticed in that there were no, at that point anyway, I think it's changed since, there were no cabinet pictures of the three models, which were actually leaked earlier in the week. So it's almost as if they weren't, or maybe the artwork packages hadn't been signed off by whoever it is who owns the Jurassic Park license.
They were shown to distributors, so
they were shown, but not for publication.
Yeah,
we've seen stuff that's been shown to us, but we weren't allowed to reproduce it because it hadn't been signed off.
Which actually,
if that was the case.
Speaking of cabinet art, so the Jurassic Park cabinet art is done by Jonathan. Let me get where I put his name.
Jonathan Bergeron.
Yes, who is also known as Johnny Crab. He's from Canada. But the interesting thing is, since then, last night Jack Danger had his gameplay reveal stream, which I highly recommend for people to watch.
Dead Flip.
Yes, but what I did notice is that, as is reported by IGN as well, who checked this with Stern, there's no footage from the original movie in the game, which obviously saves licensing fees and so on. I can understand that. But that also means that Stern's video animation team had to create all the assets for the display, the background, the island, everything that happens on the island, the animals and so on themselves. Which sort of made me wonder, like, if you have your own animation team in-house already designing all this artwork for display use, why hire a different artist for your cabinet art? Because it would be much more in sync with your display animations if you would just take a still from the display and use it as cabinet art.
Oh, I think it's a very different skill set to do video animations compared to static art of the kind of high resolution variety that's needed on the playfield, on the cabinet, the back glass, the back box sides, and the plastics as well. Not forgetting those.
True,
it's quite a lot.
But still, it made me wonder, like, okay, if you want some synergy between the two, then it makes sense that.
True. But on picking up your point there about the fact that there was nothing, I don't know if there was absolutely nothing. There were some shots earlier on in the when you first start the game with the helicopter flying over the island that maybe think, well, hang on, I'm sure they haven't recreated an entire island in that way. I think some of that might have come from an original movie, but maybe not. Maybe it's that good. It looks in cinematic terms. But they've got, I think, a team of 6 or 7 video designers and animators working on this game, which is a huge task. I think it's really a massive credit to them for the quality of what they produce. I think they've done what would almost seem impossible, to take an entire Jurassic Park movie and recreate various scenes from it and create new storylines as well. Which take it beyond just the movies, and it's really genuinely very well done. So I think this is probably their best video production they've done on any game so far as a team at Stern. So congratulations to them on doing that. And also the sound as well. And yes, coming on to Keith as well. But the sound, which has a really wonderful soundtrack based on the John Williams theme, but also done. And I'm afraid I've forgotten the name of the composer who did it. I know Jerry Thompson did the sound effects.
Yes,
but I can't remember exactly who it is who did the music. But it's excellent and very much in keeping with the theme, and it is cinematic in scope. So congratulations to them on that.
But congratulations to, I'd say, the entire team, because from what I could see on the reveal stream, which was yesterday, broadcasted yesterday by DeadClip, although this podcast might air a day later, but okay, so... Mm-hmm. Anyway, I was very impressed with the game. I think Keith Elwin is a brilliant designer for pinball. I think he really nailed it again. He was obviously Iron Maiden, which was a continuation of his previous Archer design. That was already a killer layout. And again, here we have a 3-flipper layout with quite some innovation, I would say. And as far as I can say, it's very good for Stern to have some fresh blood in the designer department, so to speak. If you understand what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
I think it. A rising tide raises all boats, as people have said in the past. Now, I think all design teams on, not just at Stern, but also other manufacturers, the level at which they have to reach to produce what is acceptable in the market now is higher. And I think, you're right, that Keith does seem to pack in an awful lot of shots into all his games, and make them interesting shots as well. So I think, originally, to be fair, and provide a little bit of criticism here, when I first saw it, I looked at the premium and the pro layouts on the playfield and thought, those two look exactly the same. There's hardly any reason to buy a premium. But then, having seen the game actually played, I thought there's no reason to buy a pro, because there's quite a lot not in the pro that you would want to have in the premium. In particular, the moving T-Rex head.
Yeah, which eats the ball and then spits it out or drops it on a ramp. Yeah,
and also the way that the Raptor pen traps the ball and does a sort of dirty pool feature of trapping it behind a target bank,
right,
as well. So I thought those were nice features to have, and probably just about worth the extra cost. The LE, well, some people got to have an LE, but it's the same playfield as the premium.
Yeah,
the premium seemed to be the sweet spot in the range.
Right.
If I was buying a game, that's what I would be going for.
I think it was very clever also on the DeadClip stream to start streaming with the premium instead of with the pro. And well, like I was saying, and not only Keith Elwin's playfield design is very interesting, but I think he also came up with some very interesting and refreshing ideas for the rule set.
Yeah, I have to admit, when we started off that stream and Keith was explaining the rules of what you're meant to do, I kind of lost it almost immediately and thought, what? I don't understand this.
Yeah. Well, you need to have a certain understanding of what dinosaurs and other creatures are out there and whether they are carnivores or not.
It seemed quite involved. It didn't seem the sort of game you could just walk up to it cold as a casual player and instantly get what it is you're meant to be doing. It seems like something that's more designed for the home buyer, shall we say, who's going to have the time and the energy to get into understanding the rules and work out how best to optimize the scoring on that, because it's not unlike a lot of other Stern games. And when Stern didn't do that with a game like the Munsters, they get ripped to shreds for saying, it's far too, or for people who are saying it's far too simple a game, doesn't have the depth required. Whereas on the other hand, it's a great game for people just to walk up and play and understand what to do fairly easily. But after having watched the stream for a little while and understanding what the various rules are, it did kind of come together, but it just wasn't immediately accessible to me in the same way that some other games would be.
Right. So, but still, I think it's a very interesting title, and what's especially interesting, certainly after seeing the stream of Deadlip from yesterday, the fact that they didn't license any movie assets and such is not a reason not to buy this game.
No, it does have Wayne Knight, who does the voice of Dennis Nedry within the game. I don't think we heard much, if indeed anything, of that during the stream.
We didn't. We did hear some, if I may say so, some very poor voice acting.
Yeah, it was a bit cringing at times. Yes, so it was people trying
a little
to do
over the top.
David Attenborough and Richard Attenborough, I should say.
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of focus on the Dennis Nedry character. A little bit. I mean, people aren't stupid. You don't need to call him 2 or 3 times in a sequence of voice calls to make sure that it's about him.
Yeah, by his full name each time as well. We need to get Dennis Nedry here.
Where is Dennis Nedry?
Oh, Dennis Nedry. Oh, sorry. I thought you meant his brother, Brian Nedry. Oh, okay, right.
So, no. But that might still change, although I doubt it. But if they could get better voice calls or have them re-recorded so they are less over the top and more natural, sure. But other than that, I got the feeling there's not a lot of people being disturbed with the fact that there's no footage from the movie in there.
No, I think the footage is the least of it. The voices are the things which stand out most as not being original.
Right. So I even talked to a couple of people who were like interested in buying a game. And then applying the Data East Jurassic Park pinball game decals to it because they just like the black cabinet with the red logo.
Well, okay. They could certainly put the topper on from that game.
Right. And actually, I don't know how much interest there would be in that, but if Stern would be like, hey, you know what? If you want a game without any side art, that's fine. You get a $300 discount, and you get a game without side art, and good luck to yourself and whatever you throw on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've also seen people saying like, "Oh, I prefer the Data East Jurassic Park Translite much more." Okay. You might find an original one or a reproduction. Get it to the right size and put it in your game if you want to.
Yeah, have to be careful about not being seen to kind of promote copyright infringement out there, because any artwork you're going to put on there is almost certainly going to infringe copyright in some way.
Okay, but
if it's got the Jurassic Park logo, which is a trademark.
Sure, but if you're doing that for your own home game, the game that you bought, then who cares?
Yeah, sure. But how many people have got the facilities just to make, print their own?
Oh, but there's people on the internet that can help you out, and well. But to each his own, I guess.
Yeah. So anyone who's going to Pinburg this weekend, Stern will have 1 premium Jurassic Park game there and 6 Pro as well for you to experience.
And they will be at the Cointaker booth, if I'm not mistaken. So visit the Cointaker booth to play Jurassic Park.
And it's good to see that the price hasn't increased on this game from the last one, the Black Knight Sword of Rage, which was I think was also the same price as the months before. So we haven't had any pinball price inflation recently from Stern. So that's good news.
Yeah, especially since if you look at how packed this playfield is.
Yes, I'm sure they're very mindful of the fact that there might be another company producing pinballs at a slightly lower price point, maybe early next year. as they want to keep an eye on their prices to make sure they're not uncompetitive in that market.
Right. So I guess that's it for Stern's 2 game reveals of the past month. There's obviously more news about Stern Pinball, so let's quickly skip through that. Quite a few code updates, I'd say. Two code updates for Game of Thrones. There was a code update revealed July 15th on a Deadflip stream that became available July 18th, and today, actually, another code update for Game of Thrones became available, and we're now at version 1.37.
Yeah, literally, as we were just making notes as to what we had for this particular podcast, and we were on version 1.36 having been released. Got the notification of a brand new version, so this is hot off the press with 1.37, which adds. No, it's not a minor update either. It actually adds quite a lot to the game.
Right. So I guess Black Knight also got a code update, which is now at 1.0.
Yeah, it's an officially finished in Stern terms, and it's reached 1.0.0. So anything beyond that is enhancements, but it is officially complete. Although I'm sure we will find more additions and enhancements coming along over the next few months.
Right, and we also mentioned earlier Stern's presence at the San Diego Comic-Con, where they teamed up with Nuclear Blast, like they usually do, and what's the other party's name? Okay, they team up with another party, which I understood has to do because basically Comic-Con is not accepting new vendors. So if you want to be at Comic-Con, you have to team up with a vendor that's already there. So, okay, That explains how it works. Stern's 3rd year in a row, and this year they had, for Comic-Con, an limited edition exclusive vinyl record of the soundtrack of Black Knight Sword of Rage available in baby blue vinyl, 100 units only. Those sold out pretty quickly. Now, if you're like, oh, I wanted one, there are, from a rather reliable source, I'd say, there will be more vinyl available, but just not that limited edition Comic-Con thing. But my guess is, chances are there would be a different color, maybe some different artwork for the cover. But I guess it's the same vinyl might be available at other shows soon.
Yeah, the cover was branded with Comic-Con, so it's certainly a souvenir edition. And at the $20 price point they were selling it at, it's no surprise that they sold those out very quickly. But yes, I can imagine that if it's not available as a vinyl, it would probably be available as a download at some point, like they did with Deadpool. I think that became available in other formats.
Mark my words, it will be available as a vinyl, and my assumption is different color vinyl, different artwork on the sleeve, and but obviously when you're pressing vinyl, the most expenses are in getting the I'm not sure what the proper names are for the molds, I would say, to press the vinyl. It's not the molds, but whatever you call those. You get my point. So once you have those, you can do anything with them. You can, if you throw in different color vinyl, you get different color vinyl, and so that's easy. So it would seem odd to me to just have molds created for just 100 copies, because it would make it very expensive to make extra vinyls. So my guess is the vinyl will be the same, but the appearance will be different.
Yeah, that certainly sounds reasonable. But having made the presses, they will print some more. Yeah.
So did I miss any other code updates from Stern?
No, I think that was the only two from Stern. There were code updates from other companies as well. Jersey Jack Pinball have been busy updating their Dialed In and Willy Wonka games.
Right.
Dialed In They brought out version 1.70 this month, which was very quickly followed by version 1.71, which fixed a couple of things from 1.70, which were found early on.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff in there, quite a few different mode and I would say feature. The way that the features work, shall we say, have changed, and but also I think they added in some bits which were missing, some of the sort of choreography and motion detection stuff dialed in. Oh, in Willy Wonka as well, which is up to version 1.09 at the moment, so that's also at release and beyond. They've added in some extra tests and adjustments in there, but also, which is the thing that caught my eye, was they have, and this may have been something which has always been in there, but I wasn't aware of, but they have a tracked mode speech, which is triggered by motion detection from the camera that's in the game.
Oh.
Which means if somebody's walking by, they can say, "Hey, you, stop, play me, put some money in."
Yeah.
Wouldn't you like to play this? And I don't know whether it would take a picture. It probably might be a bit too much of the person walking by and put it on the screen.
Right.
But
there's all sorts of stuff you can do with that. So that's
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's good to see they're using the camera feature in their games in innovative ways like that.
Yeah. So. While we're on the subject, although it's we're on the subject of Jersey Jack, let's throw in that Slash confirmed again that he's working on a Guns N' Roses pinball machine, which is expected.
Who would have thought?
Well, we reported on that like months ago after he already mentioned it to the London Times, I believe. And I was actually quite surprised to see that so many people had missed that while we reported on it. So where are you all getting your information from? There's a very reliable source. It's the Pinball News and Pinball Magazine podcast. And we discussed that months and months ago. So if you want to, it's very easy. Just subscribe to the Pinball Magazine newsletter, and you'll get every month an update with what happened the past month, including details like this, and a link to the Pinball News and Pinball Magazine podcast. So you can listen to it in your car or wherever you want to listen to it. But again, so Slash talked about it, and this is expected to be the second Jersey Jack pinball machine that we are expecting to be announced or revealed still this year. So,
yes, that's right.
That doesn't mean that it will be at Expo. We're hoping it might be at Expo, but the year runs until December, and it might also be a game that will be revealed in, I don't know, just before Christmas. Who knows? That also depends on how fast the team is working and how far the game is along and what have you. So,
and also what other manufacturers are doing as well. They don't want to their announcement of their big game to be crowded out by 2 or 3 other companies also releasing their latest games.
Right. So okay. I guess that sort of covers the Jersey Jack news, at least on my list. Did you have anything else?
Not from Jersey Jack. There's still quite a lot of Stern-based news, though.
Oh, sorry about that. I got drifted away, I guess.
That's all right. Stern were one of 50 companies, I believe, who were invited to the White House in the past month as part of the White House's 3rd annual Made in America showcase, where they have a company from each of the 50 states come along and produce, and a company who produces something which is iconically American and helps promote business, create jobs in their local community.
Right.
Stern were there. There were 3. I think there were 3 people from the company there. I'm not entirely sure who the 3 were. I know Gary Stern and I think Dave Peterson went. I don't know whether the 3rd one was John Buscaglia or whether it was Jody or whether it was somebody else entirely. But certainly 3 of them went, and
I think they had 2 games there: a Star Wars and a Batman.
okay, and other companies who were invited along were companies like 3M, Lightspeed, Bicycle, Zippo Lighters, Airstream, and sort of Weaver guitar straps. They're companies which make iconically American products.
Right.
So that was a very nice recognition of Stern's success, I suppose, in creating not just games but also jobs in their area.
So now I'm not entirely sure for who this event is held. Obviously, it's nice to have 50 manufacturers representing or presenting their products there. But I did see some coverage, some TV coverage of the event, where I think President Trump was walking in the garden of the White House, where some companies were presenting their products. So he walked by a couple, then he did a speech of an hour, and then I think he left. So I'm not even sure whether he went inside and looked at all the other companies.
Well, let's hope so. But either way, it's a nice gesture and a nice bit of recognition for Stern and for pinball as being a quintessential part of American culture.
Yeah, surprisingly, Stern did not report anything on that. It was brought to my attention because somebody else caught it on a local Chicago news channel, posted a photo of his basically TV with the news channel on. But Stern did not send out a press release or anything like that, at least not to me, and maybe not to you as well.
No, I only found out about it via other means as well.
Yeah.
But it was advertised, but they were just listed as one of the 50 companies in all sort of national coverage of that event.
Right. So, okay. Other Stern news, or that was it?
No, there's more. No, Christopher Franchi, our good friend in the artist design department.
Right.
He was interviewed on the Head to Head podcast recently. And despite rumours or suggestions that he and Stern have gone their separate ways, he did say he was still working for Stern, taking a little bit of a break right now.
Right.
So we probably expect to see some stuff from him. One thing that Stern announced recently was that in their Stern shop, you can buy the Monsters T-shirts, which use artwork created by Christopher Franchi. I was going to say it's for the game, but I think it's probably uniquely for the T-shirts. So whether that's the direction in which he's working for Stern at the moment, or whether he's going to be working on games again very shortly, I don't, or even now, right. I don't know. But you can certainly pick up the Monsters T-shirt from the Stern shop with some Christopher Franchi artwork on it.
Right. So now we know already for like 2 months that Franchi is sort of on a break with Stern. Not sure whether it's an elephant in the room, but now that they have Johnny Crab doing the artwork for Jurassic Park, if I look at the style of artwork that is used on the cabinet over there, that could be considered sort of like similar to Franchi. So now that Johnny Crab is sort of like introduced to Stern, which actually I was told by Stephen Martin of the art department, he was introduced to Zombietti, the art department was introduced to Johnny Crab through Zombietti. Yes. And now you just have to wonder, okay, so if they're looking for a certain style of artwork, now they have 2 choices. So it's up to the art department to make a choice, like, do we want to work with Franchi or do we want to work with Johnny Crab?
Well, also it depends on their availability. I mean, they both have I'm sure they're both freelancers and they have other clients they need to service as well. I mean, Johnny Crab does a lot of album art. That's I think that's the link to Zombietti that he had from doing artwork for Slayer and other bands.
Anthrax, which is also not a very uncommon name relating to Stern.
Yeah, absolutely. So how much time can he devote to doing pinball, or is he just going to pick up jobs as and when he can?
I don't know how busy his schedule is.
Well, Stern have a pretty regular schedule of game artwork that they need producing, so I think they'd like to have people who they can rely on to produce on a fairly regular basis.
Right. Now, speaking of Christopher Frenchy, let me sidestep a little bit here. The Texas Pinball Festival did reveal the theme, so to speak, for their upcoming 2020 show, which is which will be the last weekend of March, held at the Embassy Suites in Frisco, Texas.
Yep, as in the past couple of years.
Yes, and the good news is that we both will be there. And
we will indeed.
Yes, but speaking of the artwork, this was presented through the Texas Pinball Festival social media channels, and where we see I think it's called an armadillo, playing a belly pinball game and leaning heavily over the pinball machine, looking at the playfield. That's what Christopher Frenchy has been working on, as the artwork is done by him, and obviously I expect it's not going to be that one single image. Usually the Texas Pinball Festival needs more artwork for their badges and banners and what have you. So
like posters, T-shirts.
Yeah, exactly. So I expect Christopher to be working on that, which is good for him. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, I mean, not the first show he's done artwork for, of course.
No,
he did
true.
The fantastic one earlier this year.
Yes, and well, it's keeping him off the street, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking of artwork and Stern, that takes us rather neatly into the 30 Years of Stern book, which there's been a little update just very recently.
Yeah, it's now 2.5 years late.
Yeah, that's not the update.
Oh.
It's 2.5 years late. The update is that after having said they were going to redesign all the layout on the pages, they said this month they are 75% through reworking the layout. Last month they were 50%, and they have been producing a few monthly updates as they had promised at last.
Right.
So on that basis, if they keep going and no one goes away on vacation or holiday over the summer, next month it should be at 100% done.
No, it shouldn't, because in the meantime Stern released 2 new games, and of course they need pictures and what have you, so that's going to take at least another 6 months.
On that basis, they will never catch up.
Well,
They'll always be chasing their tail.
Yeah.
I imagine that the latest games are not going to be in that. It is what it is.
Well, that has been their excuse to say, like, oh, we're going to include more games. If they would be strict, then they're going to do a book on 30 years of Stern, but they're already doing 32 years of Stern, I think. And as an editor, I did see the spread for the Simpsons Pinball Party page. Yes. Which was crammed with like 40 images spread over 2 pages to give you an impression of the game. I think I counted at least 3 cabinet photos and 5 Homer heads, and I was like, it makes no sense. I mean, they could have done half of these the number of images and still get a better representation of the game.
It did strike me as being slightly odd. It almost like they were just given all the art files for that game, and it seemed to have all the decals in the game represented on the page. And I thought, well, okay, you got decals from like the itchy and scratchy drop targets on there. You've got the long decal that runs along the side of the monorail track. I thought, I couldn't see any particular reason for them to be there other than the fact that they filled a gap. Right. But maybe in the surrounding text, which was too small for me to read at the size that I saw it, there'll be some explanation of what those are, and maybe some little interesting tidbits of information about how they came about. Who knows?
So, but okay. Oh well. I just hope they get that book finished.
Yeah, I think all the people who are still in there, who haven't got their money back by now, are also hoping to get their copies this year sometime.
Well, that's very ambitious. This year, you say?
Well, I don't know, where are we? We're in the start of August, so August, September, October, November, December, 5 months.
Okay, so, well, if they wait a little longer, they could do 33 and a third years of Stern Pinball. That might make sense. It's sort of like a reference to long play albums, which is long play vinyl, so that sort of makes sense.
They could bring out a picture vinyl.
Yeah, something like that. So anyway, oh well, we'll see how that all will go.
Yes. Okay. So more Stern news.
Oh my God!
More. My God, it's all been happening this month, hasn't it? There's been a making of Black Knight sort of rage video.
Right.
Stern sort of goes behind the scenes, talks to the design teams, explains the processes behind making that particular game. Obviously talking to Steve Ritchie about his inspiration and his design for the playfield and what he intended it to be. And I think, what else can I say? Oh yeah, finally, I think, from Stern, I can say that Johannes Ostermeyer, who won the IFPA World Championship recently, got his prize, which was an Iron Maiden Pro through. So congratulations to him, well deserved. I think everybody who saw him win that World Championship would agree he's thoroughly deserving of that game. And so it's nice to see the winner along with his prize. You know, often we don't get to see that bit because it gets delivered weeks after the actual event. But it's nice pictures on social media of Johannes with his prize. So congratulations.
Right. Okay. So, are we done with Stern?
I think we're probably done with Stern for now. Let me just scroll down my list of features. Yes, I think we are. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, obviously quite a lot of news from Stern, which is a good thing. 2 new games, code updates, and a lot of other activities going on. They're keeping themselves very, very busy.
They are, but so are other pinball companies. You know, there's still plenty of other news from other manufacturers of pinballs.
Right. Let's move on to the other big news of last month, which was actually quite early in the month. The news that Dutch Pinball sent out a newsletter with several interesting news bits. The most positive one being that they reached a settlement with their former contract manufacturer, ARA. Unfortunately, There was also not so good news in the sense that Jaap Nauta, who was one of the 2 directors, I would say, or managers, founders of the company, is terminally ill with cancer. He was treated last year. They actually cured him at that point in time, but the cancer sadly returned, and it's not looking good for him at the moment. There's nothing doctors can do, and it's just a matter of time. He's, I guess you could call him sort of like a ticking time bomb, which is very sad, and I'm very sorry for Jaap. And
I'm sure all our thoughts go out to him at this time.
Yeah, what I did notice is that, and other people who might have, who might follow Jaap on his Facebook, might have noticed that he has not been involved in any pinball activities lately, and he's sort of like more trying to enjoy the rest of whatever is left for him.
Yes, he's traveling quite a bit, which is great. Yeah.
So here's to hoping that Jaap will get the most out of the time that he has left on this planet, so to speak.
Yes, and as part of that, he has sort of relinquished his role at Dutch Pinball, and Barry has taken over sort of sole responsibility for the company. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. I have been talking quite frequently to Barry over the past couple of weeks, if not months even, and obviously with cancer as a disease and multiple what's the word,
symptoms.
Yes. Obviously, Jaap is at the moment still feeling rather good, but you never know when he won't be. And I guess they figured while he's still in the position to take care of his own business, so to speak, they figured to make all the arrangements that he would be no longer actively involved in the management of Dutch Pinball, while he instead of when he would no longer be in the position to act on that, and then family would have to step in and what have you. So
he has other priorities at the moment, so
right.
That's important that he gets to deal with that and enjoy the time.
Right. So
Barry is, I suppose, Dutch Pinball, or at least is the face of Dutch Pinball.
The face definitely. I don't know whether Dutch Pinball was just Barry and Jaap, or whether there are more people involved, but not as publicly known.
Yes.
But I guess it's safe to say that at the moment it appears that Barry is Dutch Pinball. Yes.
Yeah. So looking at this court case, which obviously Dutch Pinball thought, Barry and Jaap thought they had a very strong case against ARA, who they say increased the price of the game unilaterally and without consultation or in breach of their agreement. Obviously, the court disagreed with that.
Well, not necessarily, and I guess this is a story best to be told by Barry, who will be giving us an exclusive interview in a future special podcast, hopefully soon. At the moment, Barry is too busy taking care of other stuff, which we'll get to in a second.
Yes, exactly.
But we'll get that exclusive interview. I know some people were expecting that to happen days after the newsletter went out, but I guess Barry's right now at the point that he wants to do the interview the moment that he has taken care of everything that needs to be taken care of, so people won't be, sorry for my part of my French, bitching about, oh, but you didn't take care of this and now look what you've done. And no, he wants to make sure that everything is sort of whatever he can take care of is taken care of, so that he then can move forward without people pointing fingers and stuff like that. So,
well, the story is evolving even as we speak. The action is taking place in order to move events on, and to do the interview at this moment would be to sort of dive in while some matters are resolved and some matters are unresolved. So far better to actually be able to come and talk to us and give us some actual detail of what is going to happen, rather than just say what he hopes is going to happen.
Right, exactly. So, but getting back to what you just mentioned,
the court case.
The court case where Dutch Pinball was very convinced that they had a very strong case against ARA. I know some details which I'm probably am not able to share, but what it eventually came down to is I think the judge ordered them 3 or 4 times to try to reach a settlement, because you're not gonna like what happens when the court rules. Basically, that's in between what you could read in between the lines, and eventually it turns out that the court ruled based on a question, and in hindsight, that question probably should have been rephrased. So, but since that was the question that was asked to the court to rule on, the court ruled on that question, which I don't even know because I haven't seen the court details, but obviously I've been talking to Barry. But what it comes down to is the court ruled in favor of ARA. And I knew about that. Barry had been, he was 3 weeks before the newsletter that was sent out, he was ready to send out a newsletter that contained the news of Jaap. And at that point, there was no final ruling in the court case. Or, no, let me rephrase it. There was a ruling in the court case, but they still had the possibility to go appeal to it. And that was supposed to be the news that was going out. And I helped rewrite that newsletter for Barry, knowing that, if you don't mind me saying, Barry's English tends to be a little Dutch, so to speak. There's a certain way of writing which is very recognizable for Dutch people. And as a magazine editor, I sort of try to avoid writing in such a way. But it's still very clear when Barry is writing something in English. Anyway, so I helped him with that newsletter, and I was talking to Barry over the phone, and basically the newsletter was ready to go, and he said, well, he was going to reach out to someone at the management level of the holding that is owning ARA as a company. ARA is part of a holding, and basically they were in court. They were actually not so much fighting ARA as they were fighting the management of the holding above that. So anyway, so what happened is that Barry told me, I think we talked about lunchtime, he told me that he was going to make a private call instead of having a lawyer call.
Yeah.
And there was a situation. He was trying to negotiate with ARA, and they said, no, we're only going to talk to you if you do such and such first. And Barry was like, well, if I do such and such first, then we're done. Then there's no more Dutch pinball. So if that's what you want, then what's the benefit for you? Because then you're not getting anything, and nobody's getting anything. So what he did was he made while that newsletter was ready to go, he made a call to this manager, and they talked. And basically, I guess it's safe to say that Barry laid his cards on the table, and he figured, like, okay, well, you guys can execute the ruling, then there's no more Dutch pinball, or I can make you an offer, see if you can raise the money, take everything that you have from your hands, because what would happen if there is, if they would execute the ruling, then a executioner, I guess, would come in to see like how much money is left. Yeah. Going to pay ARA and then make up the balance, like, okay, what's left in parts. That could take months. And I guess pretty much to Barry's surprise, they actually reached a settlement, which he was very excited about, of course. And that held him, stopped him from sending that newsletter that day. And then it took 3 more weeks before that newsletter, 2 or 3 more weeks before the newsletter that was sent out, if you're still following me.
Yes. So the basis of the agreement is, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, that a certain sum of money will be paid to ARA in return for which the completed games, or the semi-completed games, all the box games will be transferred to Dutch Pinball along with all the existing parts for future games. And that is the end. That is the sort of end of the dealings that ARA and Dutch Pinball have together.
Yeah.
Does that sound about right?
Well, I guess Dutch Pinball isn't paying ARA they are paying the holding company.
Right. Okay.
But basically, they agreed that ARA would be selling them everything related to that project. That's my understanding, including any intellectual property and what have you that might have been ARA's, or I don't know. And lawyers actually looked into that matter as well to make sure that they covered everything there was to cover, I guess. What's also interesting to notice is, I think a week after Barry reached this agreement, so to speak, obviously I'm referring to it as ARA, but it was the upper manager, of course. Basically, they said, like, you're getting everything that's here Dutch pinball related, but no warranties. In the sense that stuff had been standing there for 2 years, so they're not okay. So I can understand that. ARA would say that. Yes.
Yeah, they want to wash their hands of the whole thing and move on.
Yes. From Barry, I could understand that he said, like, well, I'd like to see what I'm getting first, which is also understandable. And so a week later, after the settlement was agreed on, Barry actually paid a visit to ARA, and I was fortunate enough to be part of that visit as well. Mm-hmm. So we went to ARA. I have to say that everybody was happy to see Barry on floor management level and what have you. Good to see him, and also people working in the factory were happy to see him. Very friendly environment, I would say. So there's no, between the working crew at ARA and Dutch Pinball, there's no animosity there whatsoever. Which I think is, well, something I noticed, and that's what I'm telling you now. So, and it turns out the entire production line of Dutch Pinball had been disassembled last December because ARA is expanding and they needed that area to expand for a different project, whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they had moved everything into a different hall where they have a storage facility, something on a first floor level. Okay. So they moved everything over there. We went to see it. It's like 6 truckloads of games and parts. So that's quite big. So the games were there. Barry opened up a box to see the condition of the game, which is safe to say pristine condition. The games had been stored in a climate-controlled environment all the time. We inspected some of the parts that were also present, and there was some fear that there might be some corrosion on metal parts. None of that was the case. Everything looked like it just was cut or ready to be implemented on a game. It looked in pristine condition. So that was a relief because Barry was afraid, of course, that there would be parts would have corroded or something like that, he couldn't. Basically, everything looks like it's ready to go and built into a game. It should all work fine. And so that was that visit, which was an interesting one, I'd say. And then obviously Barry had to start taking care of stuff because if you have to move 6 trucks of games and parts.
Well, before that, he has to pay ARA, or the holding company, right? What they're owed in order to take possession of those.
Right.
So he has to get some money.
Right. So, and he went after that, and that's one of the things he had to take care of. Obviously, he also had to make sure that he has the room or the facility to, once he picks up all that stuff, to store it, or to.
Yeah.
Well, obviously you can't leave it in trucks, and it needs to move from ARA, and so he has been busy with that, and part of the payment going to ARA, I guess, is being funded by the sale of, I guess, 38 or 40. The numbers vary a little bit. Games that were offered by CoinTaker at a new price of $12,500, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
And and then they would be air freighted to the US, I guess. And at that point, I'm not even sure whether that includes air freight to whoever bought them, or if that's just a part from Dutch Pinball to CoinTaker, and then CoinTaker takes care of the rest of picking up games or delivering them or whatever. I don't know. Didn't ask for details on that and so on. But that happened. Some people got upset about that. I can understand why it happened. Obviously, it was the easiest way for Dutch Pinball to collect money in order to pay at least a large amount of what is owed to ARA. And then in the meantime, Barry also had to look for the remaining part of that sum of money that is owed to ARA. And,
right. So the CoinTaker purchase wasn't enough to pay off ARA. There was still some extra money needed to be found from somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not going to dive into numbers. I'm not going to share those that information. I know what the settlement is based on, and obviously the prices known that what CoinTaker is selling these games for. You can make assumptions on how much they are paying for those games and what have you. So, well, obviously at ARA there's not only the games, there's also the parts. But so it's not a surprise that the total amount that ARA needs to be paid is more than what CoinTaker is paying for those games. So. But as far as I understood, Barry has been talking to parties that might be able to help him out with that. And I don't think it's up to me to give any details on that, but it's safe to say, I guess, that he found a party or parties, I don't know. So if all goes as planned, then ARA will be paid this week, and the 40 games, or 38 or whatever, the games at ARA, Barry is seriously looking to move them this week out of ARA. And that's actually quite, well, I wouldn't call it crucial, but there is a little bit of time pressure.
Yeah, there's a deadline.
Yeah, well, there's a deadline in the sense that ARA will be closing their factory for 3 weeks due to a summer break, which starts at the end of this week, which means that Barry has 2 days left to make sure that the payment is made and to get the games out, which is quite stressful on his end, but I'm sure that he will do his utter best to make sure it happens. So.
And he's only looking to get the games out this week. He's not trying to get all the parts out as well.
No. What I understood,
quite a large undertaking to get. Well, what do you reckon? It's about 100 games worth of parts.
I think there is. From what I understood, there's at least parts for 100 games, but some parts there's.
Yeah, there'll be more of some. More
of some. So for certain parts are there for 200 games, but not everything. But at least there should be parts for like 100 games, something like that. So, which is actually a good thing, because that means if they are able to assemble those games and sell them, that would get them into the black numbers rather easily, and then it's just a matter of ordering more parts, building more games, and keeping that going up to the point where they actually deliver the games that are owed to the early achievers, the pre-order people, and yes. Which I still firmly believe, I have no indication that Barry is doing his utter best to make sure that early achievers will still get their games. Not at the pace some that would like to see, but in the end, Barry is doing everything he can to make sure that everybody will get the game that they are owed.
Okay, well, I'm sure his intentions are good, but we know how difficult it is. We know how making pinball is hard, without wishing to trivialise that. And having a big pile of parts for 100 games is a long way from having 100 complete games ready to go. And I know that Barry's got very good experience in setting up the manufacturing, both at ARA and trying to do the same thing with Zytec. But actually going ahead and building it and having the premises where you can manufacture, not just store the parts, but manufacture the games, the people, all the costs involved in that, it all mounts up. And people generally say it costs around £1 million to set up a company, probably more, $1 million rather, more now, if you're starting from scratch. And he has got a game and he has got parts, so that's a good start. But I would never underestimate the amount of effort and time and resources and complications involved in setting up a manufacturing facility for a pinball machine. And we've seen it happen many times in the past. And
right.
It's not always, well, it's never anything like as simple as people think it is.
No, true. I agree. Then again, Barry has done it twice before. And so that gives him an advantage, I'd say. I can see him pull it off. I'm that confident. So, and again, it might not go at the pace that some people would like to see it happen, but I'm confident that it will happen. So, I'm almost at the point that I would say, if Dutch Pinball can take this last hurdle, then there's a bright future for them.
Okay, well, I'm a lot more sceptical than you are, but you have more inside information. But maybe you're also closer to Barry, and maybe see things in a slightly more positive or optimistic frame of mind.
Right. So.
So that's where we are at the moment. The money is planning to be transferred this week, and the games will hopefully be released from the factory as part of the settlement. The parts will stay in the factory until after the 3-week summer break.
Right. Yes.
And Barry has somewhere for those parts to go.
Yes, he arranged a facility. And just to clear up something that I've read some. I gave up reading stuff on this subject online because there's so much nonsense being assumed by people who have no skin in this game whatsoever. My understanding is that once the games are moved from ARA to Dutch Pinball's new facility, the plan is that every game will be unboxed, tested, and reboxed without any of the original plaques and such on it, because these obviously are supposed to go to the games that actually will go to those early achievers. But the game going
they
to
all bought numbered games, didn't they? That's the point.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And
these won't be the numbered games anymore. They won't be numbered with those numbers anyway. Put it that way.
Exactly. So so CoinTaker will be receiving all the games going to CoinTaker will be tested first. So it's not like you don't know what you're buying, and you get a game that's been sitting in a box for 2 years. No, you get a completely tested game that tested okay just a couple of weeks before it was sent out. And with the summer break at Arad, these 3 weeks hopefully should be enough for Barry to test these games, rebox them, ship them out the door so that he has enough room for when the parts come in.
Yeah.
To end this on a sort of positive note, I'm still, like I said, very confident that Barry is doing everything in his ability to make sure that he gets his company sort of on track, and that people who are owed games will get their games, and hopefully they will be able to build more games after that in order to make sure that that Dutch pinball has a bright future, so to speak.
Well, I'm hopeful as well. I'm just
Skeptical as well. And
I kind of have to be. That's if we were both singing their praises and saying everything's going to be a bright future, then it would be a bit unbelievable.
No.
Yeah, as you said earlier before we started having this discussion, good cop, bad cop type thing. But
but that's perfectly reasonable, and but I think Barry, a lot of people don't understand how much trouble Barry went through to make things happen in the end, and obviously the court case has taken its toll on him as well, and and then there's an unexpected twist, and it turns out to be like at the end of the tunnel after all. So
so fingers crossed. That's
exactly. Yeah,
let's wish Barry and of course Yap as well all the best, and we'll pick up the story next time, or when we get to talk to Barry, whichever is the sooner, whether it's next month or before that.
Yeah. Okay, in other news, first of all, let me start with something that is not related to a pinball company, but July 29th, we celebrated Wayne Iron's 101st birthday. Congratulations to Wayne Iron.
Very happy birthday to Wayne.
Yeah, I talked to Wayne. I called him on his birthday to wish him a happy birthday, and I can tell you that he's still living at his home in Mountain Home, Arkansas, by himself. He's still driving a car. He's still doing his own groceries. He did start sort of walking with a cane to have a little bit more balance, because obviously, God forbid that he falls over. But he's still living on his own, and he's hanging in there. So. And he was very happy with all the calls that he got and the cards that were delivered by post and all that. So, and if you're wondering, like, who is this Wayne Nyens? I never heard of this guy before. May I refer to you to read Pinball Magazine number 5, which is a 360-page magazine, or book, if you may want to call it, that covers the entire career of Wayne Nyens in depth, including all of the 180 pinball machines he designed for the Gottlieb Company.
Wow, that's an amazing achievement, and it's excellent the way that you cover that in Pinball Magazine. So thank you for doing that. It's a worthy tribute to Wayne's long and distinguished career.
Right. And so I won't be plugging the magazine any further, but you know where to order your copy. Just Google Pinball Magazine and you should easily find it.
Absolutely. And there's a very good chance that some of Wayne's games would have been included in a new exhibition of pinball photographs that's about to begin, I think. Probably, even by the time you hear this, it may have started.
It starts August the 2nd.
Exactly,
and it runs till, for the entire month of August, until the 31st. And it's taking place in Newtown, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I don't know where in Pennsylvania Newtown is, but I guess if you're in the area, you would know where that is.
Possibly, yeah, and else you just Google it, and I'm sure you'll be able to find it. It's called a Pinball Photography Exhibit. I forgot to write down the name of the photographer whose photos are being exhibited.
That will be Charles Acosta, who does a pinball photographs website, and the exhibition is being held at the Countryside Gallery in Newtown. As you said, it runs from the 2nd to the end of the month. But there is, on the 23rd of August, there is a meet and greet event with Charles where you can go along and obviously talk to the photographer himself, and I guess get some sort of flyers and things signed by him. But the really nice thing about this is the whole exhibition is sponsored by Jersey Jack Pinball.
Oh.
So that's nice. That's a sort of generous means of sort of spreading the word of pinball amongst the art community who may not be aware of it. Thanks to Jersey Jack. So
does that mean there will be Jersey Jack pinball machines playable at the event?
I'm not sure about that yet. As it's not a million miles away from the Jersey Jack factory in Pennsylvania. But I guess we'll have to wait and see for that. Wait and see a couple of days, and I'm sure there'll be reports available. But even without those, some wonderful photographs of pinball machines and the artwork on them available if you're available to get to Newtown in Pennsylvania this month.
Right. So, which manufacturer would you like to discuss next?
Oh, let's see. Let's talk about Homepin, shall we? And
sure.
And what Mike has been doing at the factory in China.
Right.
Go on then. You want to go?
Okay, sure. I was waiting for you. It has been rather silent on Homepin's Facebook, but they did share a reversed or a photo of the underside of a playfield. Pinball playfield being cut, I guess, which would be their second game in the making. Because it clearly wasn't Thunderbirds, they are still building Thunderbird games, by the way, but they are working on a second game. I actually happened to talk to Mike, I think, early in the month, last month. He didn't want to give any details on the game that was shown on that photo, but my guess is it will be a game that is aiming for the Chinese market with a theme that is aiming at the Chinese market, and it's going to be a very simplistic game, which sort of makes sense. If you have to teach people how to play pinball that never played pinball before, then you better start with a simple game and then make them more complex along the way. From
what I was able to glean from that picture, it seemed to have a lot of inserts in the middle of the playfield.
Right.
But looked like it had 3 pop bumpers towards the top of the playfield, which not a big surprise. A 3 bank of drop targets, I think, as well, just in front of those. Looked like it was, from what we could see, it was a sparsely populated playfield. It was on the production line, and was semi-populated. So 2 flippers at the bottom, no obvious signs of other flippers elsewhere, but also a big hole in the middle. Well, yeah, just above the flippers, where it looked like either some kind of mechanism or some kind of insert was going to go, revealing something underneath the playfield. Not exactly clear what that is. Mike did tell me what the theme, what the subject of it is a while ago, but it wasn't anything I'd ever heard of. So I instantly forgot what it was. And I've been trying to remember what it was ever since. But it was certainly something which is a Chinese title. Although when I was talking to him, there was somebody else in earshot who knew what it was. So maybe it's just me not being clued up on popular culture enough. But I have looked and tried to see what popular culture themes are in China at the moment or recently. But there's nothing there that rang a bell with anything that he said. I don't think it's something that's going to be hugely well known over here, but maybe familiar to a few people.
Right. Well, obviously, being based in China, it's no surprise that Mike is trying to cater to his sort of home market, I would say, which doesn't mean that the games are going in homes, but basically to the local or national Chinese arcade culture. That makes sense. There was a trade show last month in I forgot the name of the city, Guangzhou or whatever it's called. Mm-hmm. And I understood there is definitely interest from operators in the game, but obviously they need games to be in Chinese with Chinese signs on the playfield and backglass and what have you. And so that's what Mike is working on. So it might be a game that we never see in the rest of the world. Or
I'm sure it'd be easy enough to rescreen it and with English language decals and labeling on the playfield.
Right,
but if it's a good game and it sells well, it'll work its way over here, I'm sure.
Well, the interesting thing is obviously the Chinese market is a different one than the Western Europe or the Western world one, I would say. But obviously, if Mark would be able to get some interest from arcade operators or whatever they are called in China, there's a huge market within reach for him. I mean, if he comes up with a game that actually earns good money for operators, then he can build them forever, I guess.
Well, Gary Stern's been over in China and trying to break into that market for years.
But I guess
with limited success, it has had some success. If you go to some parts of China, particularly like Hong Kong and
the expat bars and so
Macau and places like that.
Yeah. But what I understood is that the Stern games are relatively expensive for operators to buy, and Homepin is really trying to develop a affordable pinball machine, let's put it like that, for operators, and then once they get the hang of it and it earns, then they might buy more. So I guess that's the main advantage for Mike being in China.
Yeah, and also it's totally free of any of these trade tariffs that might come and go over various times of American-made products into China. If there's a trade war that pushes up the price of American parts or American games, then he's pretty much immune from that. Sourcing so much of his product locally.
Right. So, it's good to see that Mike is busy and working on new games, and I wish him all the best with that, and I hope we get to see more progress soon.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. Okay, so that's what Homepin have been up to in the past few days. Meanwhile, American Pinball. Back to the US and American Pinball, who are still producing their Oktoberfest game in what we think are reasonable quantities. They are still at their original base in Streamwood. They haven't moved over to their new factory yet in Palatine, but they do say they're moving more and more stuff over there as time goes on. But they did say originally said they'd be over there by the end of last year, and that didn't seem practical. I think we both agreed on that.
Right.
And and then earlier in the year at Texas, I think they were saying they would be over there in the summer, making that move. And summer's here, and so hopefully over the next couple of months or so, they will be able to transfer all their production over to the new place, which will give them a hugely larger area in which to produce games, not just their own games necessarily, but also if they wanted to get into contract manufacturing, either other pinball companies or other redemption or arcade games. They have the space for it, and I think they have the facilities in general to do that kind of work.
Right. So now, surprisingly, American Pinball did start showing several photos of keys on their Facebook page.
Yes, potentially misleading, I think. There are a lot of people...
Intentionally misleading, I would probably say.
I think so. They did float a few ideas as to what their next title might be, the most popular of which was Sherlock. Do you get it? Keys, lock. Yeah, well, it could be. But I'm hearing that actually Sherlock is not their next title, which makes you wonder what the key connection could be. One of the other titles they were suggesting or asking people to vote on was Robin Hood, which is obviously an old theme for pinball, and you would think, well, what's the link there with keys?
Oh, I know exactly what the link is with keys.
Right.
But you have to know the Robin Hood story.
You do indeed. Yeah, you need to know that Robin Hood is actually Robin of Locksley, is his full name. So Locksley, well, key, lock, well, maybe that's stretching things a bit even further than the Sherlock connection.
Right.
Maybe it's something else entirely. But I think...
Could be both.
It could be. Maybe it's a crossover game. It's
but
Sherlock Holmes meets Robin Hood.
Well, you get if you have a reference to keys and keys go in a lock, then you got Sherlock and you got Robin of Locksley.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they're okay. Still okay. I guess from the 4 titles that have been teased, this might narrow it down to 2, but then again, it might not.
Yeah, there's also a little bit of confusion, I think, because they one of the pictures they featured something to do with the Punisher, which is a Marvel license.
Right. I think they already denied that it's not going to be the Punisher.
I had to quickly get on there and deny any suggestion they were going to be doing a Marvel license. I think it's quite funny. They said, I think Dan from there said there's only one company that can afford to do Marvel licenses, and it's not us.
Right.
Which is a fair point. So, so it's probably going to be, well, my money at the moment is on Robin Hood, but it'd be nice to see a Sherlock, but maybe that's going to come later. Or maybe there are some licensing issues with that we're not previously aware of, and that means they can't do it.
Right, okay. Then let's move on to our good friends at PinSound.
Ah, yes, they've been busy working on, apart from producing their wonderful PinSound audio board and various other pinball add-ons, they've come up with a whole new idea, taking the concept of a shaker motor a little bit further than we've seen before.
Right. And it looks very interesting, I have to say. Basically what it comes down to is you will be able to install a shaker motor on basically any solid-state game, I guess, and program the shaker motor to interact with gameplay in a very easy way.
Even games that weren't designed to have a shaker motor and don't have any programming in there, you'll be able to set up the conditions at which the shaker motor is activated. Yeah.
I read their original posting on Facebook, I guess. No, they sent out a newsletter as well.
Right.
Take note of Stern. PinSound did. The shaker motor has 12 different vibration patterns and 3 adjustable power intensity levels. And it's also able for instant reactivity and ultra-fast start and stop. And the shaker motor comes with a special designed motion control PCB board, which also has a 5-volt output for external mods that can be energized through that and synced with gameplay as well. So if you have a topper or you want to add something to the playfield and tie that in with gameplay, this is the board that can do it for you.
Yeah, sounds like a sort of mod controller, really, isn't it? Which you can hook in and program however you want it to interact with the game's rules. And I'm assuming it gets various sensors from the controller board and works out what's going on, and and when and for how long to activate in these things.
Right, but congratulations to Timothy and Nicolas of PinSound for this announcement. I think the strategy is that if you're interested in such a shaker motor, you can sign up right now, and I think it's either during the summer or after the summer, then they're going into production and starting delivery. But as PinSound has a very good track record, anybody interested, go.
Yeah, sounds like a very clever product. And talking of clever things, that's one of the worst links yet. But let me recommend to you a website called playfield.dev, DEV, which is a pinball emulator debugger, which runs in your browser. It doesn't need any special code to be downloaded or anything. And once you load it up, it lets you pick from a range of pinball machines, and you can then sort of simulate closing switches, like pressing the start button, the shooter lane, the pop bumpers, drop targets, that kind of thing on every game. It has a picture of the display showing you what happens when you do all that. It shows you all the switch closures, the lamp matrix contents, what's in the memory of the game, what's on the dot matrix display's memory. Very, very clever stuff. Looks absolutely wonderful. And I have absolutely no idea what you'd use it for, but it's a marvelous piece of programming, and it's something you should definitely have a look at, try. There's a whole range of different games you can load up, and I guess if you're not entirely familiar with what a game is meant to do when certain switches are closed, or what the display is meant to do, or what the state of the memory is meant to be at any particular point, you're trying to debug that game. This is a kind of like a reference point for you to where you can step through it and go, okay, well, when I shoot this target and that target, this is meant to happen. And you can see it happening on the game, and you can see if your game does the same thing, or whether you have a fault, and what that fault might be. So very clever, wonderful bit of programming, and I think on the website there's a bit more information about who did it and why.
Right. And all the software is already on the website, or do you have to upload ROMs or software as well?
No, it has a limited set of games on there, and which you can pick. They're all listed across the top. You just click on a game, it loads it up, and it's ready to go. And it's all within the browser. There's nothing to download at all written in Java or JavaScript.
Okay.
I can't remember which, but it looks very impressive anyway. So nice bit of work there.
Right. Okay. Hold on.
Oh.
Guess what?
Oh, I was wondering when he was going to call.
Yeah. So
it's Gary Stern at last.
At last.
Good,
yeah. No,
I thought we'd done with all the Gary Stern.
Well, I got good news and bad news for you. You got the first name correct, but the last name incorrect.
Oh, okay. Well, it's still nice to hear from Mr. Flower.
Yeah.
I wonder how Gary is doing. Shall we find out?
Well, he's been trying forever, and you know what happens if we talk too long? Then he just hangs up. And
oh yeah, we don't do that. I'm sure he's got some really hot off the press news for us.
Okay, so okay. Hello.
Hello, it's Gary here.
Hello, Gary.
Oh, hang on. There's someone at the door.
Right.
I'm going to put you on hold. I'll be back in a second.
Oh.
What? Wait. So you want us to wait? You're calling us and then you're putting us on hold? Sorry, but I don't think it works like that.
We haven't got time for that. We're in the middle of a podcast.
Well, in the middle, we're at the end of the podcast.
Oh my goodness! Well, we're nearly at the end of it. Yes.
Oh, yeah. So, is there anything else that we missed out on?
Yeah, there was a nice piece on CBS's This Morning TV,
right?
Which was covered.
Pacific Pinball Museum. Yes. Yeah,
they sent a reporter there, and they did a really nice piece about the resurgence of pinball and the Pacific Pinball Museum's history and their aims of educating public about the history, art, and science of the game. Interviews with Michael Sheese and I think Darcy there as well, and sort of showed how people from across the social and I don't say political, but the full spectrum of potential players can come to that place and learn and enjoy pinball. And the kind of exhibits that they showed there, I think they had an Art Stenholm exhibit at the time when the crew were there. And give it a little bit of a boost as well for the Pacific Pinball Museum and their larger collection and their hopes of getting a permanent home for their 1,000+ machines. So, if you haven't seen it yet, go to CBS and have a look for this morning's report on the Pacific Pinball Museum.
Right, or if you're in the area, just visit the Pacific Pinball Museum.
Absolutely, that's the best thing you can do. Quite right.
Right. So now, two topics that I have on my mind. Last month there was the fantastic 5 days of pinball in the UK a tournament. You were there.
Yeah, I certainly was, as it was my idea in the first place. So I kind of felt as if I should be. Yes, it was a nice event. I think we held it at our Flip Out London Pinball Club. We really needed after last year, every previous year we've held the UK Open, Pinball Open, UK Pinball Classic in as part of a bigger show, a part of a bigger pinball show, sort of national UK show, and it's always imposed constraints on us in terms of getting machines, having to transport machines to a venue, set them all up, make sure they're all tournament ready. Things happen, people's machines don't turn up, or they get stuck in traffic, or they're broken when they turn up, and you've got all those issues. And then you've got a limited time when the show's open. So we thought, well, what we really need to do, or what I thought is, what we need to do is we need to have a permanent location, a permanent collection of machines where we don't have any of this stuff, so we know what the machines are like, which is what some other shows do, or some other tournaments, major tournaments do. Mm-hmm. So we didn't have that until recently, and now we have Flip Out London where we could do it. But then I also thought, well, if we're going to do that, let's make it really worthwhile for people to come over, and rather than just having 2 tournaments on 2 days, let's expand it and throw in some more tournaments and make it 5 days of pinball. Have tournaments on every day, and give people a chance to experience not just the club, but also go into central London and see everything that one of the, I'd say the world's premier capitals has to offer for visitors. So that's what we did, and I have to say it all went very, very well, thanks to all the staff and the members and founder members of Flip Out London, and to our 2 tournament directors, Neil McRae from Domino Pinball and Matt Vince from London Pinball, who were excellent in organising everything and making sure everybody had a good time, and I think they all did. So we had a good turnout. We limited it at 80 players simply because of the size of the venue. Maybe next year we can expand somehow. We might have an upstairs area that we can use. That's a possibility. But probably the biggest potential nightmare was the weather, because it was particularly warm during that event. Not as warm as it was the days after, but we had to get some serious air conditioning into the building, because this is England, and normally we don't have air conditioning for most buildings unless it's particularly needed. So we did that, brought that in and kept it at a very nice temperature, and none of the machines overheated. And really, having done a lot of maintenance in the days and weeks before, it was encouraging to see we didn't really have any machine breakdowns either. Even the classics, we had 10 classic games, and they all held up very well. And so I can look back on it and look forward to next year.
Okay, excellent. So, and then from the biggest tournament in the UK to the biggest pinball tournament in the world, which is going to take place, the upcoming weekend, Replay Effects in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, amazing. It just gets bigger and bigger every time you think it can't get bigger. And this year, 1,000 players, I think, and sold out in, seconds,
I would say, yes.
Yeah. Yes. And I know there's a big contingent of UK players going over. I suspect there are probably a good number of Dutch players going over too, unless there's a Dutch tournament at the same time. I don't think there is. But
no, I don't think so either.
Yeah, so I think probably had at least a dozen UK players going over for this, which is considering how far away it is and the likely costs. With it being during school holiday time, when flights across the Atlantic are pretty expensive, I think that's quite an achievement, a good testament to the amazing event and facilities that the Replay FX team have built up in running Pinburg and basically making it the world's biggest tournament by a long mark.
Right. So, for those interested, I think most of the tournament, or at least part of the tournament, will be streamed live, possibly on Papa TV, but I'm not sure.
Yes, I think that's right. Yeah, I think they've been gearing up for that for a couple of weeks. They didn't cover something last weekend because they were preparing for this.
Yeah, well, obviously they got a lot of games to set up. Even if you're not participating in the tournament, Replay Effect is definitely worth a visit. If you're in the area, go visit the Replay Effect. It's going to be amazing. Actually, I wish I could go myself, but I'm busy with other activities, so I can't.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, work, I'm afraid, has prevented me going, as it's prevented me doing... going across the Atlantic at all this summer, but it just makes the autumn trip to Expo all the more special. And of course, you and I are both looking forward to planning our trips for spring next year as well.
Which is going to be an interesting one.
It is.
Yeah. And,
more on that later.
Yeah, more on that later. But good for well, let's put it out there right now. So spring next year, last weekend of March is Texas Pinball Festival, and the weekend right after is Midwest Gaming Classic, which is two of the biggest shows in the US in consecutive weekends, which makes it for us very interesting to attend both.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer really when those two are so close together in the calendar, not physically that close, but certainly easy enough for us to either fly or drive from one to the other without consuming too much time. But yes, I think you and I both wanted to go to the Midwest Gaming Classic for a long time.
Yes, I've never been there, so that will be
I haven't been there for probably, 6 years or something like that, since it was back in the old location.
Yeah, so, and the interesting news is that our good friend Gary Flower, who's still keeping us on hold, by the way, because I'm still with him on the phone, but I guess he's talking to whoever who was at his door. I had a very interesting story to tell. But Gary already arranged that we're likely doing a seminar, possibly a quiz with free prizes and all that kind of stuff at the Midwest Gaming Classic. And as a heads up, since looking at two shows in America in consecutive weekends, I sort of marked a deadline for Pinball Magazine number 6 that I really want to have issue 6 available before the Texas Pinball Festival, so that issue 6 should be available at both the Texas show and the Midwest Gaming Classic. And I might. Can
you give us a little heads up what it's about?
It will be the Python Angelo issue.
Right. Okay.
Which is already like 5 years in the making, although I didn't work on it for, I think, the past 3 years, but that doesn't matter. No, but that's an issue that a lot of people have been looking forward to, and I really want to get that out of the door and out of my way. So, yeah. And I knew that I wouldn't have anything ready for October, but now looking at these two shows, it makes perfect sense for me to have that issue ready by then. So I need to start working on it. Yes,
and talking of Expo, actually, I should mention that Expo organizer Rob Burke was actually over in the UK this past month.
Okay.
I think his daughter is studying at Cambridge University, and
which one? He has 4.
I wouldn't like to hazard a guess and then get that particular detail wrong, but I was due to meet up with Rob for dinner to talk about plans for Expo this year, which he's promising to be even bigger and better than last year.
Oh, well, it's the 35th anniversary, so that calls for a celebration. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, work commitments had me working in Cambridge, about 3 days before he turned up, and then sent me off to Glasgow while he was here, which was awkward. But so I didn't actually get to meet him again.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll see him in October anyway, and we'll talk well in advance anyway about what's going to be happening in Expo, and I'm sure we'll bring you details of all that in one of our monthly podcasts before October.
Right. So okay, I guess this that concludes it for this month.
Yeah, I think so. I think I don't know how long we've been talking, but it's been action packed and full of useful, I hope, information. We've brought you some exclusive news and rounded up everything that's happened in the wonderful month that was July 2019.
Right. So any heads up for the month of August that we already know? Like, okay, because obviously August being a holiday month, I'm not expecting much.
Well, I know I'm going to be at the UK National Show, UK Pin Fest.
So will I, yes.
It'll be in Daventry, yep. So we look forward to meeting up. That'll be in the middle of next month, or this month as it is now.
Right.
So I'm sure there'll be some information, some news from there. Traditionally, August is kind of like summer holiday time or summer vacations, where people take a bit of a break. Some companies shut down. You know, you need to get things, as we heard earlier, you need to get things done before that happens, and then people disappear off on vacation, and nothing then picks up again until September.
Right.
But that's the great thing about pinball. You never quite know what's going to happen, and there's always something happening. So we will certainly be back at the beginning of next month.
Right.
Beginning of September, looking back at everything that did happen in August.
Right. Okay, so if you really don't want to miss out on any of the news, make sure you subscribe to the Pinball Magazine newsletter, which is sent out on a monthly basis. It's free. You get a summary of all the pinball industry news, most of the stuff that we discussed, and occasionally there's even stuff that we didn't discuss because it got in the meantime and so on. So just visit pinball-magazine.com, and you can subscribe over there. But also take a look at pinballnews.com, which is Martin's website, which has great stories. Also last month, quite a few interesting stories, so make sure to check that as well. And I think that's it for now.
I think you're right. So thank you very much for listening to our ramblings for the past hour or 2 hours, or however long it's been.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed it. And as I say, we'll be back next month with a full roundup of everything that's happened in August 2019.
Right.
So until then, this is Martin from Pinball News, and
my name is Jonathan from Pinball Magazine, and I'm saying bye-bye.
Bye-bye.